Now if you won't walk, I shall pick you up and throw you over my shoulder.
He didn't just win, he detonated the night. In a room packed with world-famous directors, power producers, and A-list icons glittering under a ceiling of 1,000 lights. One name cut through the noise like a thunderclap: Sam Heughan. 2025 had just crowned its best actor, and the shockwave rolled from the front row to the rafters and straight out onto the internet. No rumor, no PR whisper, a clean, undeniable victory. The moment his name echoed, a hush snapped into a roar of chairs, scraped, cameras swung, and the entire auditorium rose as one. You could see it on faces everywhere: respect, relief, a kind of collective finally. Years of grit and grace had just been stamped in gold. This wasn't simply another trophy for a crowded shelf. It was a line in the sand, a declaration that the Scottish actor who gave the world Jamie Fraser had stepped fully into that elite territory, where performances stop being just entertainment and start becoming part of the culture. Insiders felt it, the crowd felt it, and the internet, good grief, the internet erupted. Within minutes, timelines flooded with caps lock disbelief, tears, and victory memes. Hashtag Best Sam Heughan, hashtag Proud Hooligans, even misspelled variations of his name surged into global trends as fans from every time zone joined the celebration. It wasn't a spike, it was a tidal wave. The ceremony itself felt supercharged from the start: sleek stage lines, a live orchestra hitting emotional crescendos, prisoners speaking with the kind of reverence reserved for rare seasons and rarer careers. But everything narrowed to a single point when the envelope opened and Sam's name was read. He stood, a little stunned, that familiar humility flickering across his face as friends and colleagues pounded his back and pulled him into hugs. The aisle from his seat to the stage looked short on camera. It wasn't. He crossed a decade on. That walk auditions, near misses, table reads, dawn call times. The heavy weight of shouldering a character who meant the world to millions. Let's be clear, this win didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built, brick by brick, through a final season of Outlander that demanded everything he had: voice breaking, eyes burning, jaws that Jamie Fraser lay bare at the edge of love and war. Critics had already called it once in a lifetime, career defining, the kind of performance that silences a room. But that's only part of the story. In 2025, Sam stepped into a small independent drama that scraped every last layer of polish away. No kilts, no epic landscapes, just a man stumbling through grief toward redemption, and an actor fearless enough to let it get ugly. And true, that combination: epic farewell, intimate reinvention turned momentum into inevitability. Back inside the hall, the cameras hunted for reaction shots, co-stars blinking back tears, veteran directors nodding with the quiet smile of people who know exactly how much this costs. Somewhere in the back, a producer clapped with both hands over his head like a fan at a stadium. On stage, the statue caught the light and threw it back across the audience like a flare. This is what recognition looks like, not just from a voting body, but from an industry that watched an artist refuse to plateau outside the venue. The second screen experience took on a life of its own. Fan accounts compiled his best scenes in breathless threads, editors stitched tribute reels, people who hadn't watched Outlander in years came back to say, "I remember that monologue. I still feel it." The hooligans mobilized with the efficiency of a well-oiled campaign signal, boosting official clips, calling out fake quotes, pushing the right tags to the top. Their pride wasn't noisy for the sake of noise. It was protective. The way a community circles the person who's given them 1,000 hours of hard dot, and beneath the frenzy, something quieter clicked into place. This one validated the strange, fierce intimacy between a performer and the people who carry his work in their bones. It rewarded consistency. It rewarded risk. It rewarded the unglamorous, unseen daily choices: showing up when you're tired, listening harder, going deeper again and again, until a character stops being a role and becomes a living history inside you. That's why the applause felt different. It wasn't just loud, it was grateful. Look closely at the arc that brought him here and you'll see a blueprint for longevity. Sam earned global recognition with a role that could have trapped him in amber. Instead, he honored Jamie Fraser with everything he had then fought to prove there was more. The final season made the case. The indie film sealed it. The award confirmed it. That's not PR spin. That's trajectory. Back to the stage, his fingers tightened around the mic. The room leaned in, and for a split second you could swear the orchestra held its breath. We'll come back to what he said in detail because the speech deserves its own chapter in this story, but even before a word left his mouth, the picture already told you everything. A man sanded smooth by time and pressure, standing exactly where years of work had aimed him, refusing to pretend it was easy. That humility, that quiet heat, those are not accessories. They're the engine dot by now. The celebration had broken containment. News tickers, talk shows, late night monologues, everyone wanted a piece of the moment. But ask anyone who has been paying attention and they'll tell you the moment didn't happen tonight. It started years ago and gathered force, season after season, choice after choice, until it crashed onto the stage with nowhere else to go but up. Awards don't create legacy. They catch up to it. So yes, 2025 crowned a winner, but the headline is bigger than a trophy. It's the sentence that comes after. What this win unlocks: more daring scripts, doors to filmmakers who love actors unafraid of the edge, a freer slate to gamble on story over safety. That's the gift of a night like this, and the responsibility for the fans, the ones who decorated living rooms with premiere posters and taught their friends to pronounce Sassenach. Tonight felt like a promise kept. For the industry, it read like a memo. Pay attention to the actors who build slow, build honest, and build well. And for Sam, it was a mile marker on a road that still runs long into the dark. The kind of road you only walk if you're a little obsessed and a lot in love with the work. The camera pulled back. The applause refused to die. The orchestra swelled. Somewhere between the roar and the lights and the breath he took before speaking, a simple truth settled over the room. This wasn't luck, it was earned. Ask anyone in Hollywood why Sam Heughan walked away with Best Actor in 2025, and the answer comes back sharp. He proved range in, and he proved it when the stakes were highest. Let's start with Outlander. By the time the series reached its 8th and final season, expectations were brutal. Fans had carried Jamie Fraser in their hearts for nearly a decade. One wrong note and the legacy could collapse. Instead, Sam delivered a farewell so searing that critics called it a masterclass in storytelling. He didn't just close a chapter, he set the book on fire. In the final episodes, Jamie stands at the edge of war. His family threatened, his body battered, his soul tested, every flicker of pain across Sam's face. Every whispered vow, every roar of defiance felt lived, not performed. Viewers weren't watching an actor anymore. They were watching a man they had grown with for 10 years break and rebuild himself in front of their eyes. One reviewer captured it perfectly. Heughan makes you believe Jamie is both unbreakable and fragile in the same heartbeat. It's not acting, it's alchemy. Those scenes, grief, loss, passion, resilience, were the kind that silence living rooms and leave people staring at credits long after the screen goes dark. That's how a role becomes immortal. But the Academy doesn't hand out awards just for fan devotion. What tipped the scales was Sam's daring leap into a small independent film released in the same year. Gone was the historical epic grandeur. This time, he played an ordinary man hollowed by grief, stumbling toward redemption. No costumes to hide behind, no sprawling landscapes to distract the eye, just raw emotion under an unforgiving camera lens. The character wasn't glamorous. He was messy, desperate, at times almost unlikable. But that's where Sam thrived. He let the silence stretch, let his body slump, let his voice crack on lines that seemed to bleed out of him. Audiences didn't see a TV star trying to prove something. They saw an actor brave enough to tear himself open for the sake of truth. Critics noticed. One wrote, Sam Heughan has dismantled the myth of the one-role actor. This indie drama proves he can break your heart without a single sword fight or love scene. It's his boldest, most fearless work yet. This one to punch an epic farewell to Jamie Fraser, paired with the intimate devastation of the indie film, showed a range few actors dared to attempt in a single year. It wasn't just versatility, it was transformation. The same man who commanded battlefields in Outlander could also collapse under the weight of his own regrets in a dimly lit indie frame, and that duality is what pushed him over the line. He didn't just prove he could lead a franchise, he proved he could do anything. Every great career has its silent engine. For Sam Heughan, that engine roars in thousands of accents across continents. They call themselves the Hooligans, and in 2025, their power was impossible to ignore. The moment Sam's name was called, the auditorium thundered. But the bigger quake happened online. Within minutes, hashtags like hashtag Best Actor Sam Heughan and hashtag Proud Hooligans weren't just trending, they were dominating. Feeds in countries that had never even aired Outlander fans didn't just cheer. They mobilized. This wasn't a casual fan base, tossing up congratulatory emojis. The hooligans have spent years building a culture around their star. They organize charity drives in his name. They create watch parties across time zones. They've transformed birthdays, premieres, and even book launches into global events. And on award night, they unleashed every ounce of that devotion. Some fans live-streamed their own reactions, tears streaming as they shouted into webcams. Others dug through archives to post their favorite Jamie Fraser speeches, captioned with messages like "We always knew. Tonight the world does too." Even casual viewers who hadn't touched the series in years felt compelled to join in. I remember that battle scene in season 2. He deserved this award back then. But it wasn't just noise. It was organized, disciplined, almost military. In precision, fans had graphics ready with his verified accounts, prepared tribute videos, even coordinated translations so that his victory could trend in multiple languages. It felt less like a celebration and more like a coronation, one that the people themselves had staged. And here's the thing, Sam never treated them as background cheerleaders. He built the bond deliberately, from his whiskey brand Sassenach spirits to his fitness movement My Peak Challenge. He always invited fans to be part of the journey. He gave them behind-the-scenes glimpses, book recommendations, even candid confessions about self-doubt. In return, the hooligans became more than a fandom. They became a shield. One fan's post captured the sentiment perfectly. Sam Heughan isn't just an actor we watch. He's family we protect. Tonight, his win is our win. That collective ownership, the sense that they hadn't just witnessed his career, but helped build it, was what made their pride so ferocious. And when Sam finally stood on stage, statue in hand, and thanked them directly, calling the hooligans the backbone of his success, the floodgates broke. The applause inside the theater may have rattled the chandeliers, but online, millions of people cried, typed, posted, and screamed into the digital void. In an era where fame can feel shallow, this bond was deep, lived in, undeniable. It wasn't just that Sam Heughan had fans. It was that Sam Heughan had an army in on that night. They reminded the world just how unstoppable an army can be. The room was already on its feet when Sam Heughan reached the stage. But as he turned toward the microphone, something shifted. The energy wasn't just excitement anymore, it was reverence. He held the statue tight, his knuckles white, and for a moment he didn't speak. Camera zoomed in. His chest rose and fell. His lips parted, but no words came. And in that silence, the crowd leaned closer, waiting. When he finally began, his voice trembled not out of fear, but from the sheer weight of the journey. This wasn't the polished performance of a media-trained star. This was raw, unscripted, honesty. First, he looked back at the people who built Outlander with him, the cast, the crew, the writers, his family for nearly a decade. He singled out Catriona Balfe, his partner in crime, the one who had stood shoulder to shoulder through every battlefield, every heartbreak, every impossible scene. The camera caught her wiping tears as he called her name. Then he widened the circle, producers, directors, industry mentors. He thanked them not with empty flattery, but with the gratitude of someone who remembered every yes that came after 100 no's. He spoke about auditions that went nowhere, nights he wondered if he would ever break through, days when rejection carved deep into his confidence. And then he turned outward, past the glittering audience, straight into the lens that carried his face into living rooms across the world. His words slowed, his voice cracked. This isn't just my award, it's ours. He told the story of a young Scottish actor who left home with more hope than certainty. He admitted there were moments he thought about quitting, when the weight of expectation felt unbearable. But every letter, every fan at a premiere, every hashtag that trended when he doubted himself at all kept him moving. As he spoke, the orchestra held off their cue, sensing the electricity in the air. People in the balcony leaned over the railings, as if proximity could make them part of the moment. The speech wasn't long, but every word landed like a stone in water, rippling outward. By the time he stepped back from the microphone, the theater was roaring. It wasn't polite applause. It was a standing ovation that refused to end. Some clapped until their hands reddened. Others simply stood with tears on their cheeks, shaking their heads in awe at the humility they had just witnessed. Sam Heughan hadn't just accepted an award. He had offered the world a reminder. Greatness is not measured by trophies, but by the honesty you bring when the spotlight is hottest. Just days after lifting the most important trophy of his career, Sam Heughan did something unexpected. He shifted from the red carpet spotlight to a stark, almost vulnerable place, an urgent warning to his fans that it wasn't polished, it wasn't playful, and it wasn't about promoting a new project. His voice carried a sharper edge, his words free of Hollywood gloss. I have only one official account. If anyone asks you for money, private conversations, or favors, it is not me. Please, protect yourselves. The message struck like lightning. For years, rumors of impersonators had hovered in fan spaces, but this was different. Coming directly from Sam right after his greatest triumph, it felt heavier, more serious. Fans flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with his statement, reposting it in dozens of languages. Some admitted they had almost been fooled. Others shared screenshots of scammers who had pretended to be him. The deception so real, it was chilling. One fan wrote with relief, "I nearly believe one of these fake accounts. Knowing Sam himself cared enough to warn us proves why we trust him." Another said, "He didn't have to do this, but he did, and that's why he's more than an actor, he's a protector." The fandom mobilized like an army. Graphics listing his verified handle spread across communities. Volunteer patrols sprang up to report fakes. Guides on how to spot scams circulated, ensuring even new fans would stay safe. It wasn't just about protecting Sam's name anymore, it was about protecting each other. And that's what made the moment historic. In confronting scammers, Sam wasn't only saving fans from fraud, he was proving something deeper, that the bond he had built with his audience was real. He wasn't speaking as a distant celebrity, he was speaking as someone who understood. The vulnerability his openness had created, Dan chose to take responsibility for it. Industry voices took note. Journalists praised his courage, contrasting it with Starz, who stayed silent. Analysts wrote that his warning could push social media platforms to address impersonation more seriously. Some even said Sam had set a new bar for celebrity-fan relationships where authenticity, not distance, becomes the foundation. But for fans, the impact was more personal. They had followed Jamie Fraser through battles and heartbreak, admired Sam for his charm and talent, but this moment felt different. It blurred the line between character and actor. Just as Jamie defends his clan, Sam was defending his. And that is why the urgent message will be remembered as more than a side note. In his career, alongside his Best Actor win, it marks a turning point, not just for him, but for the culture around him. It showed that trust, once rare in the world of fame, can still exist. Looking forward, Hollywood's doors are wide open for Sam. Blockbusters, indie films, producing, maybe even directing. But whatever comes next, fans will remember that at the height of his success, he paused to protect them. That is legacy, not only awards on a shelf, but a reminder that humanity can survive in the spotlight. Because acting ends when the cameras stop, but trust endures. And in 2025, Sam Heughan proved he could give the world both.